Hello, it's Dominique. Today I'm starting the first tutorial, number 1, for this little folio that I call the Pile Pages. I was inspired by Nostalgique by Carla. She made a little darling from Graphic 45. It was bigger. She had like other flaps and all that, but I was inspired for the kind of construction that she did. That's why I did this one. So I want to talk with them about the measurements first. So what you want to decide is the measurement of the back, because that's going to be the size of your folio. So you go in inches, so it's going to be 7 1/4 pretty much by 7. Okay, so we have 7 high by 7 1/4 wide. And then you're going, if you want to do the one with the latch like I did here, you're going to do 2 pieces of the same. We're just going to cut wherever we want the flap to be separated on the front, but you need to have 2 of the same like this. And then if you want to do a different, like the overlapping with the magnet flap here kind of folio, then you need to have you'll have 2 pieces here, so I'll tell you about that later. And those 2 pieces here and here are the same. Okay, and here when I said when I was showing the album, I said that I should have left a little bit more space for the first page here, like this page here, and this is too tight, so it kind of squishes everything else. It's good, but it's just so I decided to make my spines just like an 1/8 of an inch longer. So I got my pieces here. So I got the one for the back, which is 7 1/4 wide by 7 high. Since we don't have a square, I recommend that you find out what's the top and put an arrow on it, okay, and on both sides, so that you know what is what. Otherwise you might go like this and then you get all screwed. So you want to put arrows where you work. And then what I had left over here, this was my piece. I had cut this piece that was a little bit too much. This is a 8.5 by 11 piece of chipboard, medium weight. So what I had left here, I just cut in half, okay. But I had one that was not quite the same, so I had to trim like 1/8 of an inch here. But if you have like, you cut whatever you have left in half, you'll be good, okay. So here I'm going to show you how I cut these. So I just kept the last one for you guys, just for beginners that don't know how to cut this. So I made a mark with my pencil exactly where I want to have it, here and here. And I use the blades that are dull. So because those are so expensive, so I don't want to use a new blade to cut my chipboard, so I use dull blades. So I'm going to cut this here. First I will cut the long piece, because then you get to reuse more. This is a long piece, and then you get to use this one for other stuff. So it's nice to have scraps where you can use the long ones and then the smaller ones. So I like to go with my X-Acto on the fold instead of going like on the other side, because sometimes when you do, like you did one side, it's not going, it didn't go through, and then you go on the other side, sometimes it's a little off, and I think it ruins everything. So because if you're a little off, then it won't be the same height. So I rather fold it and go with my X-Acto and just cut the other side. This is what I like to do. My blade is starting to be dull here. I have a new one, but anyways, I'm not using it. Okay, so I keep that for scraps. So now I'm going to cut this piece here where my mark is, just double checking. All good. So here I'm going to cut this one and use my X-Acto to go here. Okay, so this piece you have left, you just measure the exact center and you cut another one, and you're going to have your 2 hinges or 2 spines here. Okay, good. So mine are already cut. So this one also I will put my arrow, because I want to make sure that I'm okay. So 7 high, so that's on this side and on this side. Okay, now what you need is you need to decide on the base paper you want to use, the color that you want to use. So here I'm going to use white, because I'm going to have this paper as the front and this one as the back. And I'm also having pink fabric for the spines. So I'm going to go white with the paper. So all the pages, everything you're going to be cutting cardstock that is not pattern is going to be the same color. Well, in my case. Here I went with the craft, okay, because I thought it was really nice with the sand. It really mixed well. Okay, so what you're going to do, you need to have your sheets. So I'm going to go like this and like this. But first you have to cut this piece, okay, the top one, before we start doing that, because we have to start with the top. So here I had cut like just an inch and a quarter, whatever. Yeah, an inch and a quarter, not even an inch and a quarter. Just maybe an inch and 3/16. And I thought it was too small. Like, it's really tight to get in there, and then you have to force it. So I'm gonna go a little bit further here. And I don't have really a pattern here. Even though if I would have a pattern, it's continuing on the other side. So if the latch is here or here, it doesn't matter. So I'm gonna go a little bit wider than that. So I'm gonna go an inch and a half. So I put a mark here. I'm gonna cut that. And if you're doing the magnet closure, then you get to have one piece that is a little bit smaller than the back, okay? And you're gonna have, like, this one's gonna be up to here, and you're gonna have a flap that goes whatever width you want. It could be up to here, it could be up to here, whatever you have, paper that you want to use, maybe a card, something on there. So you decide how wide you want to go. And also, if you're having the one that is overlapping with the magnets, one of the spines has to be 1/16 of an inch longer. Okay, so when you cut your two pieces with the piece that you had left on the hinges, on this piece here, and then you're making the spines, make sure there's one that is just maybe, I would say maybe an eighth. Let's go an eighth, just to be on the safe side. So the eighth that I had cut extra, that would be the one that you keep. So here my piece is 1 7/8 wide. So the other one would be 2 inches for you. That's if you want to do the magnet, because you need to have, because you're having another piece flapping on top of it, this spine has to be a little higher so that your piece on it is straight, so that everything is straight, is parallel when you have this here. Okay, you have this piece here. I don't know if you can see like far. It's hard to, because okay, so you have this one here, and then you will have this here has to be 1/8 of an inch, at least. Yeah, I would say 1/8 because you have the fabric there. So 1/8 of an inch wider here, higher, so that you have this piece going on top. And this piece here on the top, I would make a little bit smaller. It could be just a 1/4 inch, whatever you want. And then you make the flap that it overlaps at least an inch on that piece that you've cut there. Okay? I'm not doing that. It's just I'm telling you how to do it if you want to do it differently. Okay, so now I decided that I would cut this piece here for my opening here. Okay? So approximately. Okay. So now the way that we're going to put our pieces together, so we have to start, as you can see, this is the start. So I have to start with the piece that is less wide for the top. Now I'll be only talking about when you use this the latch here. Okay, if you're not using the latch, you're doing a flap with magnets. Well, it's going to be the same, but yeah, it's going to be the same thing. Yeah, okay, sorry. So I'm starting with the larger, with the front, which is the wider, the smaller from this one, and then the back one. So this is the smaller from the back one. So this is going to be going here. Then I have one. I forget words. Sometimes the words don't come. This piece here, okay, it's going to be here. The spine, sorry. And then I'm going to have another piece. But here I really don't want my paper to meet in the center of a piece. I like to have it in one of the two spines because then it won't show. Okay, maybe it's a tiny little thing, but I like to make it perfect, so I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure. I'm leaving here like I would say maybe half an inch so that I can wrap it on. Here I will be leaving 3 thickness of chipboard. So that would be, I would say, let me measure, 3/8. Okay, 3/8 here for sure. No less than that. You can even go a little bit, not a quarter, but between 3/8 and a quarter. So that means that my join of paper is going to be somewhere within here and here. It's going to be covered with paper, with fabric, so we won't get to see it. So I'm going to cut that. I have to change my blade for the one that I cut cardstock with. So I cut this here. Okay, I'm going to glue that together now. So that's going to be the first one. I use wet glue exclusively, except when I do the technique with the plexiglass or acrylic. There I would use score tape. Okay, so here I have my joint. Okay, I hope you can see all the way. Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be my first piece here. Then my second piece going to be here. Then I have my third piece here. Okay, which is the back. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then I need 4, 5. So it's going to be the one that is the same as this one, unless you have, if you're doing the one with the magnets, the closure with the magnets, you make sure you do the smaller spine here and then the larger spine here, and then after that you'll be having your last piece, which is going to be the overlapping. And here, because I'm good here, I got all of this, and this is a little bit too much, so I'm going to cut this piece here, right here, because I need to have this much for the last piece here. Okay, so I'm going to cut that piece here. Sorry if it's a little confusing, but after all my pieces are cut, it's going to be clearer for you. Okay, so I have this one here. I'm going to glue this one on here. Here and here. Doesn't matter if it's not exactly. What I like to do is I like to put my sheet on the edge of my mat, and I can see if they're pretty straight. Pretty good. Okay, so if we do that again, so I'm going to have number 1, I have a spine here, number 2, which is the back, I have the other spine here, and then I have my little flap, which is this one here, which I made a little wider because I didn't like how narrow that one was. So I'm going to glue all of that, and then I'm going to make the binder. So I'm going to do that now. If you want to fast forward because you know how to, or just skip this step, you can do that. Or if you want to see how I make it, because I might teach you something different you didn't know, then you can stick around. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. Okay, trying to be as parallel as you can with the edge. So here I leave at least, I would say, between 3/8 and 4/8. If you have fabric, I recommend you have fabric that is really thin. When you squish it, it's really thin so that it doesn't make a big lump here with your paper, because it doesn't look too good. So I recommend that you do that. And also you'll be putting a couple of ribbons or something, maybe lace, so you don't want to have too thick. Okay, I'm going to put my arrows on the right side. So this is here. What I do now is I take my ruler, which is really straight, and I check to see if I'm straight. Like you see here, I'm straight, here I'm crooked. So I'm going to correct that right now. It's crooked. So I'm going to go here. exactly. Go like this. Should be good. Hopefully it will. This is the wider part. I'm gonna go here. Hopefully it's straight. So far so good. 3/8 at least. Between 3/8 and 4/8. 4/8 would be too much, but 3/8 pretty good. But no less than 3/8 if you want to wrap with paper with fabric, which I will do. If you wrap just with the paper and you just cover the pieces with pattern paper, then you don't need that much. You can go just to 2/8, which is a quarter. There. This one needs to go a little bit lower. Check the top, because if it's not quite, then you need to have a little bit on each side that is not quite the right length. I'm gonna go a little bit more like this. There. Then what I do, I just press everything on the back, especially the corners. Okay. Okay, then what I do, where's my scissors? Here I have a little bit too much. I'm gonna trim a little bit here and a little bit here. I like to have like 1/2 inch. Less than that is harder to wrap. More than that is so much, takes so much glue and pressing. So I like to have just that one. I could have left it, but there. Then I'm gonna cut my corners. So I don't know if you remember the corners. I don't cut my corner like this, okay? Because then you get to see the corner of the chipboard underneath if you do that. So what I do is I do a smaller angle and I go, you have to cut away from the corner the thickness of your chipboard. Like if I would have heavyweight chipboard, I would go even further. Now I'm going right here because that's the thickness of my chipboard. The space between here and here is the thickness of my chipboard, so that when I wrap it, it's going to cover it. Okay, and then I go like this. I don't go all the way like this because then we're going to see it like this. It's like a bird flying in the sky like this, and you have to have this little space here. Okay, so I'm going to do all of them. Sometimes I go a little too quick and we get to see some of the chipboard. I'm not happy, but there's a way to correct it. You just insert a little slice of paper, like you would cut this little paper here. Doesn't need to be that sharp. And then if this wouldn't meet and you'd see some, you just go like this and just cover, and then you glue everything on top, and then you won't get to see it. But if you do it correctly, it shouldn't happen. So then this is a heavyweight cardstock. So I just start with the one fold, not too much, not all the way there quite yet. Okay, I do like 2 stage. Okay, then what I do is I take a ruler or something that's really hard, and I kind of press. I don't know if you can see, I press on it, but I go really on the table to press hard to make sure that my fold is where it should be. Okay. Then what I do is I go more. So I press once and I press 2 all the way. I press once, like halfway, and then I press another time. To make sure that you don't have any lumps or pockets on your paper right on the edge there. That's the way to do it. Go one time. You don't need to go that many times if you're using regular cardstock, like just the 65 pounds. But here, I think it's 85 pounds I'm using. 85. So, but for the pages, for sure, you need to have 85. Otherwise, all your pages will be so soft, will be all wiggly. That's not good. So you need to have the heavyweight. And I like to use a heavyweight for my cover as well. Okay. Now I can put my glue. So this is going to take some time. So what I do, because the glue takes some time to dry, so I do two lines. I do two edges, two sides, because by the time I glue this one, by the time I put the glue on this one will start setting. So when I glue it down, it'll stay. And by the time I glue this one will start setting. So when I get to it, it'll be almost, it'll stay there better. So I go like this, and when I do this, I make sure that I'm all the way in. Okay? Because sometimes we fold it and it's not all the way in, so you get to have a little pocket. It's not very nice. Okay, so that one is good. So I press like this. You have to make sure you don't press too hard when you get where you have the spaces here, otherwise you might tear it. Okay, go like this here. I go like this here. As you can see, it doesn't take too much time. It shouldn't take more than 15 minutes at the most, making the base of the book. Okay, so that's done. You see how quick it set? That's because I let it dry. I was doing something else while it started to set. I'm going to do this one, and while I go put the glue on the other side, this one will start setting, so when I press on it, it'll stay faster. Don't forget to put here, okay, on the joint of, if you have any hard lumps, remove them. Okay, which you have a little bit everywhere. Okay, so start with this one. So I will press towards the inside to make sure I'm all along the chipboard piece. Then I'm going to press on it a couple times till it's really stable. And then I'm going to do the same on this one. Oh, see? Don't press too hard. This one's good. So I did all around in what, 10 minutes at the most. When I started to glue my pieces together, that's the time it should take you once you're really used to it. So I'm going to use this ruler here just to fold this here in the center, just to know where I'm going, to see if everything is good. It's going to go like this. See, it's a little bit bigger than that one. Just a little. That's what I wanted. Exactly. That's what I wanted here. Okay. Then what you do is you're going to cut pieces of fabric. Here, I should have cut that before because I need to kind of shake it. I'm going to shake it over the kitchen sink. Let's go this way. Okay. So I need to have 1/2 inch on each side and 1/2 inch on the top and the end. That's how much you need more than the space that you have from this here to here. So I'm going to cut here, and I'm going to cut here. Okay. I'm going to cut the big piece because I need to have 2 of those. So might as well do a square here because my piece of fabric is... I'll be right back. I need to shake this a little bit. Okay. And this one is here. And then I need another one, same width, just a little bit too wide. Even if it's a little bit too wide, I recommend you cut it, otherwise your fabric will not be the same on each side of your spines, and it doesn't look too good. Let me go shake this. As you can see, it's got some fuzz coming out. Okay, now you have folded, so you see where your folds are. That's important. Now you're going to put the glue inside the space where you have inside the two folds, okay, like this, and then one line on each side, just on the edge. Okay, then you can put your first piece. Make sure you have 1/2 inch on each side. So you just quickly go like this and then check. Don't press too hard. You go check if you have the same amount of fabric on each side and you have enough on each side here. So same here as here, pretty much. Same here as here. Okay, then you can press. You do the same on the other side. So you do like this. Here I use 3-in-1. You can use fabric tack, same thing. 3-in-1 I like better because it can glue other fabric on other fabric better than fabric tack. Okay, so I'll try to be even on each side. Enough here. Just gonna see if it's good. So here is pretty much good. Here too. And then I got enough here. You can stretch it just a little bit just to make sure there's no lump here. Okay, and then you press on it. Okay, then you need to decide what kind of fabric you're gonna put. I mean, kind of lace or whatever, which is gonna be right here. But you need to put your paper first. Okay, because this is going to cover the space where your paper comes here, so that it covers and the paper and the fabric. Okay, so you need to cut your paper for your 3 I should say pieces. So I'm gonna go here. It can go a little bit underneath here. You have to be right there on the edge, and this one I leave about not even, maybe a 1/16 of an inch on each side.